If we look around us and we ask ourselves, how do we get sober? We will probably answer it something like this. Stopping drinking is difficult. Stopping drinking requires willpower. Stopping drinking is complex. I'll be completely honest with you. I used to think the exact same thing. But here's the thing, it's not just me. I'm definitely not the only person that used to think this way. In fact, this is what 90% of the adult population believes when it comes to stopping drinking. They truly believe that it's a challenging endeavor. They believe that it's going to be hard work. But where does this belief come from? And most importantly, is it true? Well, today we're going to be looking at 5 steps on how to get sober. If you want to learn how to get sober, you're going to want to watch all of these 5 steps. I'll be explaining how you can make the whole process enjoyable, effortless, and it will not be difficult at all. Quite the contrary. If you're new to the YouTube channel, then welcome. Now, just before I share those 5 steps on how to get sober, I want to quickly touch on how I've discovered them. Most people think that progress and success in life happens in a linear fashion. It rarely does. Success looks something like this. Can you see the image on the right? The one with the squiggly line? Well, that was me for 10 years. Yep, 10 years. I was trying to find solutions to my drinking problem for around a decade. That meant 10 years of pain, misery, hangovers, wasted money, low self-esteem, lack of clarity, lack of energy, and honestly, I had tried absolutely everything to stop. Willpower, books, YouTube videos, 12-step meetings, you name it. If I thought that it could help me on my journey, I was willing to try it. But no matter what I tried, nothing seemed to stick. Some of the above methods lasted a few days, a few weeks, even a few months, but it always ended up back at square one. Luckily, I got to the very end of that squiggly line on the right. I realized the truth and I had a breakthrough moment. I ended up seeing alcohol so clearly. All my beliefs and all of the conditioning had been smashed open. Through introspection, study and observation, my entire perspective shifted. And now I want to share some of those insights with you. So let's do this. And guys, at the end of the video, I'm going to be telling you how you can start working with me to actually help you stop drinking, so stay tuned to the end. The first step is reasoning by analogy. Now, whilst this first step isn't effective at all, it's often a precursor to some of the other steps. It's necessary to include it in here to help deepen your own understanding of how to get sober. Reasoning by analogy is when we make assumptions based on previous evidence or experiences. It is probably best explained through this example. Now, let's say that you're about to buy a Ford Escort. It's your third Ford Escort and it has 50,000 miles on the clock. So you've got A1. My last 2 cars were Ford Escorts with 50,000 miles. A2 is that they were both reliable. Therefore, B, another Ford Escort with 50,000 miles will probably be reliable. Whilst B might not be 100% true, there is a chance of it being true. However, as you can imagine, reasoning by analogy doesn't always work out particularly well. However, there are definitely examples of this style of reasoning when it can serve as well. Reasoning by analogy is used as a bit of a mental shortcut for people that want to make an educated guess at things. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with reasoning by analogy. It's actually a very deep-rooted survival mechanism. However, 99% of the adult population does exactly this when it comes to approaching how to get sober. Their mental shortcut goes something like this. A1, my last 3 attempts to stop drinking ended in failure. A2, my last attempt using willpower was very difficult. Therefore, B, all attempts to quit drinking will be difficult and likely to end in failure. If we believe this, we already start in a state of negativity. And from experience, being in a negative state of mind when you're figuring out how to get sober is the wrong way to go about things. You have to be positive about the situation. It is mission critical. I had been reasoning by analogy for 10 years when it came to stopping drinking. However, it's all changed when I started reasoning from first principles. So the next step is reasoning from first principles. Now, the opposite of reasoning by analogy is this thing called reasoning by first principles. So in the Ford Escort example, instead of making an educated guess, we would actually do the opposite. What we would do is we would analyze the various components of the car to come up with a new logical conclusion. So we'd break down all of the assumptions that we had when we reasoned by analogy, and then we'd observe all of the individual parts. We'd look at the tires, the oil, the engine, and so on. Only then would we decide whether or not the car is reliable. Reasoning from first principles is much more time consuming, but it is a much more accurate conclusion. we end up getting a much more realistic view of the entire situation. When we reason from first principles, we remove any assumptions and all that remains are the essentials. We can then come up with unique solutions to difficult problems. This is particularly important when it comes to learning how to get sober. Now, I have actually created an in-depth video training showing you exactly how to use first principles thinking on your own journey, and I'll link you to that in the description. Now, one way that we can reason from first principles is through Socratic questioning. The process of Socratic questioning may look something like this. Number 1, clarify your thinking and explaining the origin of your ideas. So why do I think like this? What exactly do I think? The second step is to challenge your assumptions. How do I know this is true? What if I thought the opposite? The third thing is to look for evidence. How can I back this up? What are the sources? The fourth step is to consider alternative perspectives. So what might others think? How do I know I'm correct? And number 5, you start examining consequences and implications. What if I'm wrong? What are the consequences if I am? And then at number 6 is we start questioning the original questions. Why did I think that? Was I correct? What conclusions can I draw from the reasoning process? Once you've done this for alcohol, your entire perspective shifts around the drug. It's like a light bulb moment. Now, whilst it's possible to do this alone, it can be very time consuming. However, this is exactly what I teach in the Sober Clear coaching program. It's the process that I went through and all of my clients. Instead of doing what 99% of the adult population do, we instead reasoned from first principles. Now, anybody that has successfully stopped drinking without willpower and found it effortless to stop will have gone through this exact process, whether they realize it or not. The third step is removing the conditioning. One important aspect of reasoning from first principles is understanding and removing the conditioning surrounding alcohol. And what exactly is the conditioning? Well, the conditioning is what we've all been facing from day one on planet Earth. Our society has conditioned us to think that alcohol, or ethanol, actually has some kind of benefit to drinking. When we are able to reason from first principles and use the Socratic questioning techniques above, we are able to remove this conditioning. It's not an easy process, but it's 100% necessary to getting sober. It's very hard for me to explain this entire process within this video, but it's a fundamental part of how to get sober. When you start to realize that alcohol gives you absolutely nothing, it's like a light bulb switch. The penny drops, so to speak. Now, I'm going to link you to a video talking about removing the conditioning at the end of this video, so make sure to stick around to the end and then you can check that one out. Now, the fourth step is becoming a better version of yourself. Once you've gone through the arduous process of reasoning from first principles, you should immediately go towards a better quality of life for yourself. And that means focusing on evolving. It means becoming the version of you that you always wanted to be. The version of you that's happy, successful, and clear-headed. When you can reason from first principles, stopping drinking becomes an enjoyable and logical decision. There's no waiting around for a magical moment. You simply start moving towards a better way of life. Now, one of the best ways that you can supercharge your results after you've figured out how to get sober is through hiring a coach. A coach is somebody that can hold you accountable and hold you to higher standards. It doesn't need to be an alcohol-specific coach, although that may help, but you want to find somebody else who's been there and done that. It's when you combine these 4 things together, that's when you truly master how to get sober. Now guys, I do currently have a couple of spaces open for the Sober Clear coaching program. This is a program where I take you through first principles thinking and I will be personally helping you to stop drinking. Not only will you stop drinking, but we'll make the whole process enjoyable and effortless. Now this program is mainly for ambitious people that are ready to get their life back. If you have a negative and bleak outlook, it's probably not for you. Now you can click the link below this video and you can check out some of the reviews and you can book a consultation call to see if you're a good fit for the program. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit subscribe so you can get notified when we release a new one. And if you click the video on the screen now, you can learn more about removing the conditioning and also about the 4 stages to stopping drinking. Thank you.